Canada's youth unemployment rate remains at almost double the regular unemployment rate, 13.1%. And what that number doesn't account for is how many of our youth are underemployed for this level of education they have, for their capabilities, as well as for the ambition that they solve. Could you imagine how high that number is if you just think about the youth in your community and your personal network and what that number would rise to? Worldwide, 75 million youth are unemployed, and young people are 3 times more likely than their parents to be unemployed. I'm going to say that again. 3 times more likely than their parents to be unemployed. That's a pretty bleak global situation for our youth to be in. And the key elements of employment seem to be pretty simple. Available jobs and workers with matching skills. Seems easy, doesn't it? In 2014, McKinsey released a report called From Education to Employment, Designing a System That Works. And what they did was they went around and they interviewed 8,000 youth, employers, and education service providers in 9 countries. And you know what they found? Is they found that these 3 entities are actually living in parallel universes. The youth. Over 50% of the youth don't believe that their undergraduate education is helping them find the right job for them. 40% of employers cited the lack of available skills as the reason for the 45 million unfilled entry-level jobs around the world. Remember I said there's 75 million unemployed? There's 45 million unfilled jobs. And astoundingly, 70% of the education providers believed that they were doing a good enough job, that they were preparing the youth for the workforce. Could you imagine trying to innovate in that ecosystem when every one of the key stakeholders are living in parallel universes? It's kind of difficult. But what's really more important is that if we don't innovate, we're basically screwed. We saw some pictures of the future, and we saw what our forests are going to look like. We really have to start innovating and matching the skills to the jobs, to the work that's being done. As Mark Andreessen famously said back in 2011, but maybe not famously to everybody who's not a total geek like I am, he said that software is eating the world. And as a result, it has fundamentally and forever changed the workforce and the workplace. It's really important to understand that that is changing. First and foremost, there's this unprecedented change in the youth, the workers themselves. The barriers between work and life for this generation just don't exist. The emergence of the sharing economy with massive companies like Google, Uber, Airbnb have taught us all, youth and older workers alike, a new way of collaborating and a new way of accessing resources and information. And this new way fundamentally threatens the traditional enterprise. It threatens the way we work. It's scary for us all to deal with it. We now sit in the world, we're well past the world of the digital native. We're living and working in a world of the highly networked mobile native. This emerging workforce has been permanently changed again, and Moore's Law is firmly at work here. It's firmly at work, moving our country, moving our world from a company-centered organization to a worker-centered one. And the roller coaster ride is just beginning. This unprecedented change in the workers themselves has created a driving need for fundamental shifts in the underlying fabrics of work and learning. As an example, I read a report recently, where it came from is really not important, that by 2020, 50% of the workforce will be freelance. That's 60 million workers in the US alone, 2.2 billion globally. And what's even more interesting about that is this is not being driven by the needs of the enterprise. Enterprise aren't downsizing, they're not deciding they want to deal with freelancers. This is being driven by the needs of the new workforce. This is how they want to work. This is how they want to engage. I really think it's important for us all to understand that this new workforce is different. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different, and we all need to accept that going forward. Educational institutions and enterprises are not only feeling this immense pressure from the changing workforce and work structures, but they're also feeling the impact as software continues to munch away at all aspects of our business and our industries. Technological advances like artificial intelligence, big data, robotics, 3D printing, Internet of Things, I can go on. But what this is doing is it's fundamentally redefining the products that our companies produce. It's actually creating new competitors and markets overnight that we have to react to. It's changing how we can access and reach customers on a daily basis. It's actually fundamentally transforming the manufacturing industry. It's changing the processes that exist there. And what's even worse is it's doing all this while blowing up business models as we know it. Imagine this, it's all happening now, it's all happening at once, and it's all happening at warp speed. And what this is creating is a massive need for skills and processes, for new skills and processes. And what's really scary for all of us who work in industry today is these skills and processes, we don't even know what they are yet. We just know we need something new. Because if you look at that warp speed, by the time we figure out what the skills and the processes are, we're behind. So we've got to create a new way of working. So how on earth do we enable change for a problem that is the magnitude of this scale? I'm going to give you a small example of the scale of this. I was reading a report by the Clayton Christensen Institute, and in it they were talking about a study that McKinsey had done on a small manufacturing supply chain. And what they said in the study, and I actually went back and I've read it like 3 times because I'm still astounded, is they said that in the number of skills required for that supply chain in 2009 was 178. When they looked at that supply chain in 2012, guess how many skills? I thought double maybe. 924. That's massive change in a very short time period. Think of the poor people running that supply chain. If you look at this, there's not an educational institution or a corporate enterprise that could react to change of that size, even if they were trying to. It's just happening faster than we can keep up. And the speed and complexity of changes in the global economy that we're all seeing, combined with these changes in the worker and the workplace, with the fact that technology and software is kind of munching its way through all our industries, is causing a really urgent need to innovate now. And by innovate, I mean thinking completely different. Incremental change is not going to get us there. I have a really unique vantage point on this particular problem since I have the luxury of working at Mars Discovery District, which is one of the largest innovation hubs in Canada. And every year, I work with teams of probably 300 to 400 entrepreneurial teams. And no, these teams are not all hoodie-wearing 20-something overnight successes. Yeah, we have a couple of those, and they're quite amazing to watch. But the majority of these teams are made up of seasoned educators, experienced business people, really solid and deep innovative tech people who are just trying to make a difference. And what's really exciting for me is that change is happening. Pathways between K-12 and the workforce are no longer a straight line. High-priced undergraduate degrees are no longer enough to land the right jobs. Tech companies like Hootsuite and Salesforce have created universities that are providing training and micro-certifications in social media and Salesforce process that are becoming the differentiating feature in getting a job. The acquisition of lynda.com by LinkedIn was a clear sign to the industry that point solutions are marching on and are here to stay. EdTech funding in the US has moved well beyond funding technology and tech-enabled curriculum. It's moved to funding new education service providers. The system is changing. New education ventures like Minerva, Bitmaker Labs, Duolingo, changing business model and changing skills development. HR tech trends are dominated by talent and employee culture. Innovations that we're all trying to figure out how to unearth the talent in the world that has the right skills for the right jobs, to do that matching job with the 75 and the 45. The system is recreating itself from the outside in, And my challenge to all of you is, are you going to be part of this redesign? We need youth. We need experienced business people. We need educated and seasoned educators. And we need technologists to help solve this problem. Come innovate with us.